In today's video, I'm going to teach you how to make a low poly female base mesh inside Blender. So let's just hop straight in. Okay, and throughout the tutorial, anything I'm clicking, you can see over here on the left. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm actually going to just add in a cube, and this is going to be a rough guide for the heart of our character. So I'm going to go item, and then we can pick roughly how tall we want our character to be. Let's just make it like 1.7 meters tall. And then what we need to do is, instead of actually going and grabbing a specific reference image, which really locks you down, and obviously there's not really that many good like turn around or front side reference images, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to add a cube, and then this is going to be our rough guard for our character. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add an array modifier. I'm going to change this to 0 on the X, and I'm going to change it to -1 on the Z, so it starts going downwards like that. And then what we're going to do is we're going to scale it down till we roughly can fit like 7.5 ish, depending on how tall you want your character to be. What you can do is basically look up some references of like the head proportion guide, which will kind of help you know how tall it is. I'm going to keep a reference on my second monitor, and I will kind of reference roughly what guidelines we should be aiming for. Okay, so let's go ahead and start modeling. Now, as you can see, both of these will like not be see-through inside of solid view, so we can actually do that. Well, firstly, this one we don't need it because we just need to know the heart of it. Now I'm going to go to the object properties on the stack of cubes, go to viewport display, and change it from textured to wire. And then what that does is in solid view, now you can see it's see-through. And if you want, we can also turn the selection off. So up here in our outliner, turn on the little cursor and then click on it. And then now you see we won't be able to select it or do anything. You can still select it over here. No, you can't. But yeah, so just keep that toggle off unless you need to select it. And that should be good for us to go. So I'm going to add another cube, and I'm going to bring it up, and we can start out with the body. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go to edit mode, and I'm going to go add, well actually I'm going to just cut it in half. So easiest way to do this is I'll just go Control R, add an edge group down the center. I'm going to press escape to leave it like that. Go Z, wireframe, and then select the left side like that, X vertices. Okay, then go modifiers, and then search for mirror. Cool. I'm going to turn on clipping so that we don't have anything pulling away from the center, and we are good to go. Now, roughly your character should be like the center, the top of your legs should be roughly halfway through your character. So if we look, I think I can count right. So yeah, so that's 1, 2, 3. So it should roughly, the top of the leg should be roughly over here, maybe a tiny bit higher depending on the height of your character. So like the torso should kind of be taking up this sort of area over here. Okay, so about here, and then what I'm going to do is we can go scale it down slightly on the side view, and what we can do is I'm going to add one horizontal edge group like this, and what we can do from here is we can select this and then drag this in to like round it out a little bit, grab the back, round that out a bit as well. Then we can start adding some vertical edge groups like this. So I'm just going to add, say 3, and then we can give ourselves like a rough shape for the character. So just kind of have like a little taper. Shoulders, we will add in like the whole neck area like this. And then as obviously we're going to kind of adjust this, but essentially from the side view, the whole look is going to be something kind of like a little bean shape is kind of how people usually refer to it. So obviously like the head is going to be up here like this, and then for the body itself we're going to kind of have like, so obviously the shoulder area here, and then it's going to kind of taper in, then curve around like here. Okay, and then this is going to blend into the legs, and then so here obviously this will be the chest area, so chest, then obviously like this will kind of be the top of the rib cage, then this is kind of the point of the rib cage over here, then like the pelvis itself should start somewhere like here, this area, and then this is kind of just the stomach area. So you might have a little bit of a dip, you might have like a bit of a belly like that, then this will kind of fall back quite quickly like this. Okay, and then so obviously, so like legs, they kind of stick out a bit further in the front. So then the back will be a little bit straight like that. Then you'll have kind of the quad itself, and then like a little bump for the knee, and then from here this will kind of be a bit straight. Then a bump for the calf, so kind of to there, and then obviously like depending on how your foot is, how long the leg is, etc. Kind of this thing. Cool. So it looks a little bit unbalanced. We can completely adjust the proportions later. So it really doesn't matter too much right now. Okay. So I'm just going to give a rough look similar to that reference I just drew. So nice to like round this top area over here. Will make you laugh a lot. Will look a lot nicer while you're working. Cool. And then as we do this, we can also go add the final like loop over here to set up the legs. So the easiest way to do that I found is to just extrude down like this, take these two faces and then delete them. And then this gives you a 6-sided loop for the legs. So I'm going to go right click, loop tools, circle, and I'm going to rotate like this. Okay. And then if you don't have loop tools installed, go edit, preferences, go to add-ons, look up loop tools, or this might be from the get extensions, one of those get extensions, loop tools. There you go. So right click, loop tools, circle. Okay, so same thing, you can go to the front view and start adjusting the proportions of everything. Like you can also set up the rib cage if you feel like this. Cool, and this is not too bad. Cool. So what we can do from here is we can take this, and then this is going to be easy to set up the legs from. So we can just extrude out and then rotate and then bring it below like this. And then kind of just scale it to however big you need the legs to be. And then you can scale, because usually it's a little bit thinner. It's a bit like skinnier from the front than the side. So you can scale it up on the Y and then make sure to bring it forward so that we're keeping a relatively straight look from the back of the leg, whereas the front of the leg is going out a bit. So like here, this could probably go even further back. So like here, this, like the stomach could be further out. So we have kind of like this loop coming in. And then this should probably be way further up in relative to there, because you have usually quite a curve around like that. It's quite a, usually like very round. Okay, so something like this should be good. And then there. Okay. Sometimes with the low poly, it's quite nice to kind of have like, so like there for the pelvis and there for the rib cage, just to have that kind of opposite thing, so you can see that the shape with the quads. Okay, then we can basically, like my first step is essentially just getting the base body shape and then getting the hole for the leg, hole for the arm, and hole for the neck. So the next thing we can do is the neck. So the way I like to do it is I'll take this, Control B to bevel, and then I go V for vertex. Okay, so if it's not working, then just look at the bottom. There should be a V for vertices. Oh, so affect vertices and edges. You can see that toggle down there. So Control B, V, and then what we can do is we can just use the nav tool. So press K from the nav tool, and then just click along like this, and then press enter, center to this edge. Press enter. Okay, so what that does is now all of these are quads, which are 4-sided faces. Then we can select this middle one, right click, loop tools, circle again. Okay, so there we go. And then this just gives us a nice setup for the neck. So you can just do like there, you can see there, and then this is obviously ready to be extruded up from there. And obviously you can change the size and all of that, but it's a good start. Okay, so the last one to do is the hole. So I think I kind of talk about it. There are two options: either add a horizontal edge loop like this, and then take these two, and then that's your arm, or you can take these two and then insert. Okay, so there's a couple different ways and there's different reasons to do it, but usually the thing I found is you don't want to take both of these and like extrude out like this, because then you kind of get no definition in the whole like chest area. Like it's in the area here between the shoulder that you actually have a proper dip. And if you don't have the sort of like here, because like this is obviously your rib cage has some shape, and then your shoulder is only back here, so then your shoulder kind of sticks out. You don't want to have it just go directly out like that. Okay, so as I said, you have the two options. If my undo wants to work, either just add two edge loops and then extrude from here, Or we can also just take these two and then we just go inset and then we can just pull it out like this. Okay. So just blend these out together and then from there, extrude out. So for today, I'm going to get rid of all of that and I'm going to do the horizontal edge like this. Okay. So let me just go give it roughly like a round-ish shape for the shoulder. Okay. And then extrude out. And then from here, I'm going to right click Loop Tools Circle. So very useful add-on, Loop Tools. So there, scale it down or scale it up. And then like this can also obviously like be adjusted. Sometimes what I quite like doing is, actually, so this, I'll usually bring the neck quite far down, like there. And then you can also give like this side a bit of a different look. So like this is going to be kind of like the actual trap area. So adding some nice definition like that is quite useful to make it look good. You can also add like a collarbone if you want, like that kind of thing, where you pull this down. A couple of different things that you can do to make it look nice. You can even just pull this one down. But you see how just creating some more angular bits, not just having everything just be straight or anything like that, is quite useful to make it look nicer. Okay, cool. Now, while we have all of these, we can actually start with making all the different sections. And as I said, we can completely adjust proportions as we go along with two options. Either we go Control Tab into sculpt mode, and then just grab the grab brush, I think. Is this one? Hover over it. Grab, yep. And then you can change the strength and size up here. And you see there, like we can use this to very easily and very quickly change proportions. Or in edit mode, you can select the vertex and go to proportional editing here, and then just press G and then scale up and down. So yeah, just two very easy ways of changing your proportions of your character. So if you need to make the whole torso shorter or anything like that, or change how the ratio of the legs to the body, etc., everything's pretty easy to do. So let's get the legs here, and the easy way to do that is just press extrude and drag all the way down to like the ankle area. Scale it down, so something like this should be good. Okay. I'm going to try to keep the leg quite straight so that it's easier for like a rigging process. If the leg is kind of just going straight down and also not going too close to the center, if your legs are like right there, it's going to be quite difficult to work with. And if your clothing's too thick or anything like that, then you're going to have issues. So it's better to have it a little bit further away, and you can change the posing as you go along. So yep. And then roughly the center area. So if we take from here, like that is roughly the center position of the leg. So that's where the knee would be. Let's go side view and then look at the whole leg look. So again, straight for the back of the leg. Then this will be the knee. So like that. And then we can go add kind of some more definition to the side of it. So we'll kind of peak here and then go down. And then this will be the actual knee section. You might have it like actually go a little bit forward like this. So there. Okay. Then for the calf, we're going to take here and then just kind of pull this back. This might scale down. This might scale up. Check from the front, scale that up as well. Cool. And the calves are actually kind of a little bit rotated. So like the peak over here is a little bit higher than the peak on the left side. So something like this. And then probably make the ankle a bit smaller. And I quite like adding another edge loop like halfway up and scaling that down. Makes it look a little bit nicer. Yeah. Just adjusting the knee position. I think we did mess up the position of the legs. Let me see why. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. I think, let me just grab all of this and then I think make the legs kind of originate up here. And then we can just mess around with the whole proportions. Just make sure we're not pushing any vertices through the center of the body. Okay. So make sure that the kind of whole rib cage is fine. Cool. I think I broke some of the shapes of the whole upper body. Sometimes you can make the whole kind of like give it a tiny bit of an exaggerated kind of posture where it's like there and then have the whole upper body kind of like that, if you know what I mean. So there, yeah, that should be not too bad. I'm going to make the leg a little bit smaller. And then just make sure that if you're doing that, bring the whole, let me just grab this whole upper body and pull it forward a bit. Like you need to make sure that your character actually looks like it's balanced. This is one thing where if you actually give it some proper like curve like this, then you can have a proper balance to it. So something like this probably. Also, if we pulled the whole bit up here, so like this position to this position, if we get half, I think it's right now. Yeah, roughly right. But make sure that if you're adjusting proportions, that you also adjust the other sections, like the legs. And like here, this now is way too low, so this needs to be like here. Okay, so there. And you see that now feels like a more balanced kind of size of everything. Maybe slightly too short for the torso, but again, we can change it further as we add arms and as we add the head and all that. It's going to change the overall feel. So I wouldn't be too stressed as you go along. Now, as I was saying with the references, it's not super important. Like, I wouldn't have a straight reference of like front and side view unless you can get good ones. A lot of the drawings are really bad. You might be able to get like reference packs and stuff that have good references. So like you might look into those. But if you're just working there, the best way is just to look up this head method, and then depending on the size of your character, you can adjust what you're doing to those like head proportions. So you can even start with just making the head, but we can also just update based on the head later. I'm just going to fill in these two faces. So I just grabbed that whole thing, extruded down, filled it in. Also select the bottom, SZ0 to flatten it. That's what I just did. Then I'm going to grab this face like this and just extrude. And you can see it's going up because of the angle. I'm going to press Y, so it just goes forward like this. Okay. Then I'm going to grab the top vertices, drag them down like this. Control R to add another edge loop. I'm going to kind of push it further back. I'm going to grab these two and push them down as well, like there. Okay. I think the foot's slightly too long. Yeah, something like that should be good. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab the whole foot. So I'm going to grab like this, and I'm going to go Shift H, which hides everything other than what you've selected. Okay. So you see like this. The reason I want to do that is so I can go bottom view and now adjust the shape of the foot. Okay. So like there, usually the whole like toe is a little bit wider. I think I always quite struggle with the shape of the feet. One thing I do find that's quite helpful is to actually grab all of it and kind of take it and rotate it out a little bit like this. So like there. If you want, you can add the kind of like bump on the side. But yeah, I think this is probably fine. Like here. So there. I think what also helps is kind of giving it a little bit of a taper from the side. So grab this and kind of pull it down like this. Making sure to not kind of have like, yeah, it's very sloped. So I'll pull this out until it is a little bit like there. Okay. But yeah. We kind of have to look at some reference, see how the foot would look from the front view. I think it's a lot flatter than you would think. Some sections they're a lot thinner, so like there. But yeah. Okay. We can go Alt H now, see, and we can now see if it looks good in relation to, because you don't want to have the feet to look too small to a point where like the character couldn't stand. I might make it a tiny bit bigger. I think I might just make it also taller. I think the bottom was a little bit too thin. Yeah, that definitely helped. And then again, just evaluate whether it actually looks like the character is standing, like if it's balanced. So it's quite important to have it so like your character doesn't look like it's falling over. But yeah, just going to make the torso a tiny bit bigger. I think the legs are a little bit too long. Okay, cool. Again, we can update later as we go along. Now, the proportions for the arms. So the easiest way to get the proportions correct is to go add your 3D cursor and select it roughly on the shoulder area over here. Now we're going to add a circle. So Shift A circle. Then we can rotate RX 90. So we rotate it like this. And then I'm going to scale it down till it's roughly over here, like kind of the peak of the thigh. And then from that, what we can do is this is going to be roughly where the fingers are. So if you kind of do your arms like straight down, that's kind of, you can see where they would hit. So that's your reference, maybe slightly longer, but we're getting from the point of the shoulder to where it should be going out. So I'm going to do a T-pose for this one, straight out to the side, which is good for the rigging again. And so like this as well, we could probably actually make the leg a little bit straighter in terms of like straight line down. I think that's fine. And then same thing, like this could probably fine. I'm not an expert on rigging, so don't listen to me too much. But yeah, so then this will probably go to about there. So then that gives us enough space for the hand. Then I'm going to add an edge loop roughly in the center for the elbow. And then I'm going to go side view. So I like having a little bit of a kind of rotation in the arm. So again, if you want to make it proper for rigging, then don't. Make it a little bit straighter, like this. Okay, and then we can go bring this up. And then I'm just going to shape up the shoulder a little bit. It can also help to kind of bring in the whole like armpit-ish. And then look at everything. And then we might add one more and kind of like to add some definition to the shoulder. Cool. Let's see how this looks. Cool. Let's go make this a little bit smaller maybe. Something over here. So there, and then we can pull this out for the like forearm. Like that. And then this will be for the wrist. And then again, similar to the calf, I'd kind of bring this in a little bit. We can add one more for the bicep. And then this one, I'll show you how we can shape it up, but let me just actually grab a second reference image for myself. Okay, cool. So for this, I'm just going to kind of look at my reference. We might be better off taking this and going and kind of making it like this. Keeping the arm quite straight. Cool. And then here. And then I think what might actually help is if we grab all of this and pull it down. Like that. And then it's like this will be obviously the chest. Then there. And then this would be further down. The collarbone can be kind of lower than the shoulder over there. We might even need kind of like another edge loop almost to kind of bring this down. I actually don't hate that. That's quite cool. Yep. And then, so then for this, we're going to kind of have maybe a little bit of a bicep kind of like there. And then we can do the same thing at top for the triceps, kind of just push them out a little bit. And then for front view, we can probably pull them down. So like from the front, we can taper it like that. But then from the top, we have it actually bump out a bit. Cool. And then for the, scale that down. Maybe let's add a second edge loop for the elbow. So let's go pull that in, pull this out. Okay. I think let's make this whole area a little bit smaller. Cool. And then we don't want to like cave a whole chest in. Cool. That's a good base. And then yeah. Actually, I think one thing that kind of run into is when you do the rib cage like that, when you go to the side, it needs to kind of keep on going down like there. You may want like an extra or an extra edge loop for the middle of the stomach. Like this. Cool. Yep. Okay. That's fun. And then, yeah, I think the arm looks all right. Maybe make the forearm a little bit bigger. There. I might just make the whole thicker. If you want to change the thickness of the arm, just go Alt S like this. You can also S and X to make it wider or longer, like that. I don't know. I think the whole kind of area is a little bit too small, so we can kind of just bump up the whole size like this with the grab brush, like this. So I just ran into having this cavity, so essentially it was masking off some sections. Yep. And I think this should be a little bit better balanced. Yep, cool. Now let's add the hand in like this. So just grab this and we can extrude out. That should probably be long enough for the hand. I'm going to bring this out, and then actually what I do before that is take this and rotate it so that we kind of have 3 vertices on top and 3 vertices at the bottom, like here. And then these can be the ones that we pull out like this. Okay, so now we have this vertex in the center, and then like you see it. So instead of having just like all the detail over here and then just having a flat top and a flat bottom, we actually get those vertices on the top and the bottom as well. So we can add one edge loop, and then what it's going to do is going to allow us to have the thumb. So I'll usually go kind of pull this out, and then I'd kind of just go knife tool like this, and then add across, or why are you clicking so much? Click there. So knife tool like that, merge it together because I accidentally missed M by distance. Then this can be pulled in a little bit, and then this is what sets up the thumb. So just position it where you want, extrude out like this, not that far. Cool. So here, okay. So then this can be scaled down, and then we just extrude out a bit, like here. Okay, cool. And then this, I'm just going to go delete this, or dissolve that edge, then select the middle two, J to join, and I'm just going to kind of round it out a little bit. And then also I'm going to bring this up so that the whole hand is a little bit thinner. Okay, that's fine. I'm going to grab this, take these two, and then extrude, like that. Just check that the hand is not too long. I think the fingers are supposed to be roughly 50% of the hand. So like that. So we kind of take it there. See, they're roughly 50-50. And then this also, like the center joint of your finger is also roughly half the hand. And then you'll have another one there. It's kind of up to you if you want to add it in. I'd usually kind of just stick to just the single loop like this. Then usually just make it a little bit thinner, like here. Just slide it up. Cool. And then there. And there you go. Not too bad. And we can come back to it, mess around with it later. Might also want a little bit more definition before the hand starts or something. Let's see. If you know what I mean, like just to have something to tell kind of where the wrist is properly. But I think that's fine. Let's go on to doing the head. Okay, so I think the neck got quite messed up shape-wise, so let's work on this a little bit, smooth it out, and also get the proportions right. So we might just make it all like thinner because it's just not very round. We can also use loop tool circle again. Get it back to being a proper circle. When you do the loop tool circle, just make sure not to have anything like this where it pulls away from the center. You can just rotate and then it fixes it like that. And then here we should be ready to merge it into our head model. So for the head, I'm going to go Shift A, or actually Shift S, cursor toward origin, bring it back to the center. Shift A, add another cube, scale it down, and bring it up to the head. I'm going to press Control 1 to add a subdivision surface like this with 1 on it. Go apply. Then I'm going to scale up a little bit. And then what I'm basically going to do is I'm going to flatten the side. So scale X a little bit. And then I'm going to just kind of square it up a little bit. Like here. Cool. And then I'm going to add a mirror. And then I'm going to go delete the left side. X vertices. Clipping. And there we go. Now to kind of shape it up, I'll usually just grab this, extrude down for the jaw. And then pull this forward a little bit. Okay. Like here. Then I'm going to grab obviously go back to front view and make sure that's fine. So kind of shape it up, give a whatever shape you want for the face. You can also kind of like fake the cheekbones, even if we add another edge loop or something. You could do like anything like this if you wanted to add a little bit of a thing. Also helps to add kind of the what's it called? Have the jaw a little bit more round, that kind of stuff, a bit thinner, etc. Okay, and then what I'm going to do for this whole area, I'm going to grab these three, inset, and turn boundary on with B. Then I'm going to X faces, delete everything to get the actual thing. So I talk about this quite often. If I go to statistics, this is 6 vertices, and we're trying to measure with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So to get it back to 5, what we can do is take this, extrude out, pull back to the center, and then we can fill it in like this. And then from here, we can select the head, select the body, Control J, and then take these and X faces, and then just bridge them. So right click, loop tools, bridge. Obviously that's quite messed up. So what I'm going to have to do is change a little bit of the proportions. So I think we got the whole up a bit. It's a little bit too low. This can probably be scaled up a little bit. I feel like that's really bad. So let's see how we can get this to merge a bit better. Firstly, I'm going to pull this back, add an edge loop. This should be way shorter. So something like that. And then this is going to get scaled down and put to about there. That's a bit better. From the front view, it probably needs to be a bit taller. That looks a bit better. And then I'm just going to kind of add a nice curve like this. Make sure everything looks fine. You can also kind of bring these down a bit, smooth this out. Especially like this area. This can be smoothed out. Cool. And then I'm just going to use the grab brush again to kind of just change the whole shape of the head. And then if we zoom out, you can probably see that like the head is a little bit too small in relation. So obviously if we compare it to our reference. So let's go turn the selection back on and just bring this down a little bit to kind of where we wanted it to be. And then let's scale it up a little bit to try to get closer to our reference size. So there, scale it up like that. Then make sure the neck is not too small to like actually accommodate the head. Zoom out. I think that's looking a lot better. And you see we're pretty close. Remember that there's also going to be like hair and that kind of stuff. So it can also change how big the head looks. So yeah, like that. I might also take the whole head and bring it forward. So people usually have quite bad posture. So like there. Might also make it a little bit wider. Your head's quite long from the side view. But yeah, so there. I'll also just make the chin a little bit lower. Cool. I use the grab brush quite a lot throughout the whole process. But yeah. Now, if you want, you can add a lot more detail to the head. Like you could add extra stuff for the eyes, like this. So just add the knife tool, like there. And then just pull this back. And you see that instantly gives you like a little bit of an eye section. You could add a nose. You could either just do like a little thing like this. And then just pull this out. Or we just merge these. Don't need a like that. Just a little nose, or you can kind of have it go a little bit further up into like the whole brow area, etc. But you can see that gives us a pretty good result for the whole look of it. And again, I've shown you kind of different ways of changing proportions. Like this might make it a bit thicker. You can use Alt S to do that. Maybe for the whole arm as well. Like that. Yeah, but I think we've got a semi-balanced looking base mesh to start with. And now take this and build anything on top of it. So yeah. I hope you enjoyed, hope you learned a lot. If you want to learn more about this whole process, you can check out my low poly character course or my PS1 character course down in the description. below. Cheers, and hope to see you in the next one.